Welcome, fellow wine lovers. This is the Wineghosts podcast. I'm Mate Bosch, a certified sommelier and seeker of hidden stories behind the most mysterious drink in history. For more information or direct contact, please look for the Wineghosts on Instagram and Facebook. But now, please grab a glass, get comfortable, and listen to how the day's ghosts get out of the bottle. This episode features the Roterfaden Winery and of course the lovely couple behind its energetic wines. We spent a wonderful morning with Olympia and Hannes looking over the terraced vineyards and the fairy tale-like valley northwest of Stuttgart, Germany, on the last day of May. They are biodynamically cultivating 3 majestic grape varieties, Lemberger, Pinot Noir and Riesling, which we also tasted during the recording together. Their approach to farming and winemaking is honest, minimalistic and magical. You can hear a deep and thoughtful conversation about not just the wine world, but life in general. That was one of the most fabulous settings I've ever had the fortune to experience, and I hope some of those vibes could come through your speakers as well. You can also watch an almost 30 minutes clip from the podcasts on the Wineghosts YouTube channel or on the Wineghosts Instagram page on IGTV. But now, please enjoy a spontaneously started talk with 2 excellent winemakers.
They say it's
The
attractive.
sound is not so strong.
No, it's good. No worries. We're only in Germany, so. In South Africa, I would be dead already.
That's what we said the last summers, but somehow it felt more like Greece than Germany here.
It turns out it's kind of Mediterranean.
It's
feels
getting
like.
very Mediterranean.
It's windy,
here.
it's very sunny, it gets dry, which is obviously not so cool, but for us in the vineyards, it doesn't matter so much.
No, if we
you
had
are a farmer,
vegetables or something, it would be
vegetables,
much more
crops,
critical.
whatever, it's more difficult. Yeah. But for us, because I mean, we have plants which are old.
And we
long
don't irrigate
roots.
by persuasion. So there are
Not at
many,
all.
of course, you can imagine many vineyards are being irrigated and more. But I think it's quite ridiculous to say that we irrigate in Germany. What would the rest of the world do? Now, what about Spain, France, Italy, Greece? I mean, if we start irrigating here, then
If you have young vines and before they die, of course,
Sure.
it's fine. But there's a lot of things you can do before you irrigate, like working the soil, reducing the yields, reducing the vigor.
have a good shadow, with a canopy.
To save them energy. If you fertilize them a lot, they grow very fast and they build a lot of leaves, and they have to
They need
support
more
those leaves
water.
with water. And in summer, when they have a lot of leaves and the canopy is very big and there is no water, they suffer. So if they grow slower, they have less leaves, and in general, it's less square meter of everything. So they need much less water, And you have better grapes, actually.
More balanced,
Yeah.
You just need, as long as the vine itself has its balance, then you don't see so many irregularities, because of drought and everything else. You just need to bring the vine into balance itself, so that
Of course,
the
you
vine
cannot.
it's much less from your support. You're there since in case something happens, but the vine needs to do everything on its own.
And it needs some time to strengthen, no?
Definitely, it's a process.
Yeah,
It's
sure.
definitely a procedure, yes, but it works. It's just, I mean, for many people might say it might be a bit more risky, or definitely you lose some yield, but you actually in long term you gain a lot, because the vine will thank you for much longer time. It will stay healthy. It will make really,
It's more sustainable.
and you taste it also. You taste the balance. The wines, we don't do anything with the wines. They are stable by themselves. You open the bottle and
We give them time. We give them a lot of time.
And also after bottling, right? So
more and more if we can.
It helps. Corona actually does help for this.
Because we don't sell.
Because we haven't had a lot of wine so far. We usually bottle them about a year later. So just before harvest, the basics.
But in this year, we don't move them.
Because we haven't had a lot of wine, we were many times sold out in May or June, because there was not much. So the new vintage was bottled. Of course, your cavists and your retailers say like, okay, guys, send us the wines, and you're like, freshly bottled. Can you keep
But
them
of
half
course,
a
you
year?
also want
But
to sell if you're
you
like
need
a
the
fresh
money as well. I
company,
mean,
and
so
but now it's getting better.
and now because 18 was a bigger vintage, and we didn't sell wine for 3 months, it will push back a little bit.
Which is
So we
good,
can
which
bottle
is
even
good.
later and give the wines more time, which is actually exactly what we wanted, and now we have to do it, so that's fine. We just make the best out of it.
Yeah.
But then when you sell the wines, or it maybe in a previous vintages when the corona didn't hit,
Yes.
so you sold all your wines, or you kept some for yourself, or later?
Well, we
it's
kept,
hard,
but
but
not enough.
we kept kind of like 5, 6, 7 cases,
Okay.
Not enough.
just to learn more about our wines, because I mean, my grandfather made some wine for himself and for the family and for friends, but he had no clue how to make wine. I mean, they had to help a little bit in the cooperative as a member sometimes. So they looked and said like, okay, this is how they do it. And everybody made its own wine at home.
Just a hobby wine for them to drink. And
So that's the experience that we have from the wines from here. Of course, there's the cooperative, which is doing a fantastic job, but I think it's a different approach.
you know, they get paid by the weight, and they get paid by the sugar and so on. So obviously, if you have like a hobby vineyard here, you have different aims. You want to produce a lot. You want to have very, very ripe grapes and something, because this is how you get paid.
They have to do this in a way.
That's why also they irrigate and they fertilize and so on. We focus on this long-term sustainability of our business. We started a business, which was actually quite tough step, you know, to do. But we said, okay, if we have to do it right, so that we can survive much longer and our company stays healthy. And you stay healthy only if your vines stay healthy. So, yeah.
So I just tasted a bit drink a Riesling, sorry.
Yes.
And we already talked about how different the taste is. So it's not a book, not a Riesling from the big book maybe, but I wouldn't bring it to blind tasting. But it's I tasted again, and it's really unique because the acidity also have a taste which is very unfamiliar to me, but very natural. Like, so it's like a herb oil kind of. It's really aromatic acidity, not like a striking plasticky what maybe you get sometimes
lemony or something.
Yeah, no, it's really like a ripe phenolic and the oiliness or herbiness or aromatic acidity really, but present acidity. And you said how much alcohol does it have?
10.2.
Yeah, but
10.3.
It's really it's like
it's
like a wonder, because it has really a mid palate, it has a weight, and it's really kind of full-bodied, but it's very not linear, but really mouthful.
For us it was also quite interesting. I mean, we were not afraid of harvesting early, knowing that you will get just a little or small alcohol amount. Of course, to put in sugar to get more alcohol doesn't make sense for us. Yeah. We don't believe in this. But 18 vintage was actually a bit surprising and a bit irritating at the beginning, because it was so dry. So the vines stopped ripening, but everything looked fantastic.
You know, they didn't have any nutrients because it was very dry in the summer, so they couldn't produce more sugar. So they just stopped. But, it tasted fine. We tasted the grapes. We don't do analysis and stuff, but we tasted the grapes, and the grapes were fine. They had this really nice fresh aroma. They had the nice, pH, we said, with the acidity and so on. So it's okay, why wait? Because if we wait longer,
it was super warm.
We lose all this aroma that you have now.
And and so exactly that's what you're saying, the acidity. We have the feeling that actually the acidity is the most important thing on a wine. This is what keeps the fruit. This is what brings the sparkle. This is what makes a wine alive.
So we had to
it's
say
the most
that,
important, and a very healthy, tasty acidity, because it can be, you can leave a lot of grapes on a vine, because then they ripen very slowly and they will have a lot of acidity, but it's not going to be a very tasty acidity. It's unripe, and that doesn't make sense as well. So Yeah, it was surprising.
Yeah.
High acidity, less alcohol, but if you
It
give them a
worked
lot of
behind.
time, we make them with a lot of lees, all the lees that comes out of the press basically. We only have a basket press. So you put them in barrel or in tank with 100% of the lees, and it stays there. It never gets wrecked. Little bit of sulfur, no filtration, no finding, nothing.
And you only add sulfur before bottling?
Yes.
Just a little bit, yeah.
Before we rack them from the barrels, they go to the bottling tank. They get some sulfur, but by then they're stable by themselves, you know, because they stay on the lease and they stay throughout the whole year, so they stabilize themselves also with the seasons. You know, in the winter they're very close. They might start like after autumn, you know, like end of October and so on. They might start the malo, but they will not finish it because then it's the cold winter. But then the moment the spring starts, then they really work. And then by summer they're done. And then they stay and they rest, you know, and then September they get bottled. So.
And you use stainless steel also, or you only use bigger tanks? Or?
We have, well, for the aging, it's almost everything in wood. Okay. But we have old barrels, very old.
So this Riesling has...
this one actually was only
This was only stainless steel, and the new vintage which is in barrel now is half and half almost. And the plan is to go to only wood.
But we will
like,
not taste
but
it.
bigger barrels.
And very old, yes. We talk, I mean, the youngest barrel that we have is 6 years old. So you really don't, it's all about like the physical process of aging in the wood, but not the taste. We definitely don't want the taste of wood there. Be careful.
At all. Yeah.
We don't want any accident.
Because we are actually sitting here, okay, sorry, I didn't say it in the podcast. We are actually sitting here between the vines. And between the Rieslings and the Lembergers, or?
Yes.
Exactly.
Can you maybe just paint, or you already painted us the picture, but maybe for the listeners where we sit and what is behind us and what is in front of us in terms of vines?
We're sitting in a beautifully terraced vineyards. We have on top Riesling. We have in the middle where we're sitting next to a tiny house, which is very typical for the region, these tiny houses in the vineyards. We have Lemberger, which because it's the hottest part of the vineyard, it's very steep. And on the bottom, just on top of some rocks before the river, we have a Pinot Noir. And we're looking down to a tiny village which is called Mühlhausen, which is the neighboring village of Rosswag where the winery is. And this is the two villages where the vineyards are located.
And they build like, so you have the vineyards on the steep slopes, and what you look in front of you straight is like a very nice big valley of Greenland and the river that flows
meanders through it. I think that's the word.
And some forest on the horizon. And
so it's quite diverse landscape. It's not only vineyards at all, actually. There's a lot of forest. There's a lot of green fields. There's a lot of crop. We have a lot of fruit trees. The traditional type of fruit tree, which grows very high. So
not on trellis. So it's...
And a beautiful river if you like fly fishing.
So you have everything basically what you have need for a good life in a balanced nature.
Yes, if we
for our understanding,
we
yes.
need just to imagine that the river represents the sea and the beach, and then everything is fine.
At this point, we should tell that Olympia comes from Greece.
Yes.
But we find feta everywhere here, so we're good.
So we can survive. Yes.
And how was the Riesling in previous vintages? Because 17 was not that hot, if I remember.
No.
That's true.
It was not so strict, you know. We call this Riesling for our taste and for our small experience quite straight, you know. And the Rieslings that we had made so far, they had a bit more fruit, a bit more.
Okay. But they were also very herbal.
They were also very herbal, and they were also very like mineral, and they had this acidity. The acidity is always like this kind of, but in the aroma you might find a bit more fruit, and maybe a bit rounder, you know. But this has definitely to do with the drought that you had in the 18th. The 19 is beautiful.
Oh, it's very tasty.
It's beautiful and probably less herbal.
Yeah, it's a bit more balanced because this
to
one is quite,
view,
for I guess for some people, might be very strong in acidity. For wine geeks like you guys, for example, you will love this, I guess. Yeah. but for a more
The
normal
broader
wine drinker,
public.
they would probably be irritated because it has kind of a strong acidity. So it's interesting how it's going to develop. But 19, I guess I would say it's a bit more balanced.
Yes.
We had a few extremely hot days in 19. With one day where actually some of the grapes
got burned.
Got burned on the vine. They dried out on the vine. Just crazy. Never seen this before.
But it was only like 3-4 days
Yes.
with really extreme temperatures, and then it balanced out again. So it was not like 18 that you had 3 months of drought and heat and everything. So, and also the September in 19 was a bit fresher.
We were lucky because we had some nice rain just 2 weeks before harvest.
Yes.
Which was extremely helpful. Because it was quite dry for a long time, and then there was good water, so they could like revitalize before the harvest, which was very important. It's funny that we talk about rain all the time because usually we had too much rain in this part of the world.
Not anymore.
So botrytis was always a
Not
big enemy. It's not lately in the last few years at all.
And so this wine was also unfiltered.
Everything.
All of them, yeah.
Everything.
So it's really probably less than 1 grams of sugar around 1 gram.
Probably.
Maybe.
I don't remember
Maybe.
exactly the analysis, but
So how, like 7 grams of acidity?
I think it
I
has
think it's
9.
a bit more, yeah.
Yeah?
I
Yeah,
think
it
we're
has about
nine.
9
Yeah.
grams of acidity.
Make-
But it was not so striking for me. So it's not really.
It's
not this
integrated.
limey, not this.
No, you know, because
scratches your mouth, but
when
It's
you keep
integrated.
because when you keep them on the full lees in barrel and tank for such a long time, it gets integrated very well.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that you leave it on gross lees and then on fine lees? Or
No,
you-
only
no,
on, the,
no.
on the first lease they stay there.
It comes out of
no
the press
gross
and it
and
stays
fine.
in tank like it is. It's not. It's never touched. It just stays there like it is in the barrels as well. No.
Nothing.
Just fill it and that's it.
Yeah.
Like in
We
the old
okay,
days.
of course we top the barrel so that
Yeah,
they always stay full, but that's it.
Thank you.
After the press
Wow.
directly.
It's Pinot Noir probably, right?
That's
Yes.
Pinot.
Wow, beautiful color.
That's Pinot.
So the Riesling, as I told you just before, one part is from the vineyard just up above us, and the Pinot Noir, some part of it is from just down there.
And that's like, how high is the difference in terms of elevation, do you think?
Oh, I have no idea. What do you think?
Between here and there,
Yeah.
I guess it's about 35 meters.
Oh, a bit more, no?
Well, I mean,
It's
the
quite
church
steep.
tower in Rostock has 32 meters.
Okay.
Don't ask me why I know this. I have no clue. Because I went to elementary school there and I told things like this to kids.
But we're not, in general, we're not very high.
No, we actually,
We're,
you know,
we're
I
quite
mean-
low because limestone is one of the low soil.
it's actually one of the
types.
lowest, yes. And then you get those Käuper,
Okay.
they say in German, which, for example, Jochen Beurer has a lot because he makes this division between Käuper and Gipskäuper and Sandstein.
But they're a
and-
bit harder,
and it just
you know?
goes up the hill, let's say, and limestone is underneath, it's just underneath.
And we have a lot of limestone here. So.
We have
only.
only
Yeah.
limestone.
It's all limestone, all the vineyards.
And you already mentioned a very special kind of limestone. So can you tell us a little bit about that? And what it may give to the wine, actually?
I mean, obviously there are different types of limestone. We are not experts in this too much.
No, but mostly you have like the ones, I mean, the most famous limestone is the ones you have in Burgundy.
Yeah.
That it's quite yellowish and it breaks in like edgy parts, you know, not in round ones. But here we have the blue limestone, and I mean it's always shell limestone. You always find, you know, the like fossils and so on. But here we have the blue grayish limestone, which is quite rare, and it's harder, very hard, so it doesn't break very easily.
Actually, the one they used to build streets.
You know, the
We
down
have a
part
big
of the streets.
gravel pit in the village. But how do you say? They harvest stones, and this is what they use for the basis of building streets because it's
very
so
stable.
hard. It never changes. You know, if you use sandstone, for example, it
Forget about
will
it.
after the year with water, heat, cold, it will just
Breakable, yeah.
break
Yeah.
after a while. Yeah.
And this one is also so it's quite warm, and so the vines actually quite struggle to go through because it's a very hard stone. But when they go through, then they stay, you know, like they get the water and so on. But you have also much warmer surface, which also together with the south exposure, it makes it a really, really warm microclimate. That's why Lemberger really likes it. And, you know, the more the years go by, you probably less with Riesling and like whites in general. Unless, of course, you build Chardonnay, which is actually one of the best, definitely. But
Viognier.
or Viognier, yes, they like this kind of microclimate. But
Grenache Blanc.
you have also some similarities with the slate because you have, if it breaks, it makes really flat
Layers, flat
surfaces.
layers,
Yes.
Yeah.
And you all have these three grape varieties, right? So
Yes.
Riesling, Pinot, and Lemberger.
Exactly.
And
We focus on Lemberger, so this is our main variety, because it's one of the very traditional varieties here in the region, and it's one of the rare varieties actually in the world. Obviously, Austria has a lot of it as Blaufränkisch, but in Germany
And
it was
Hungary?
only grown. I'm so sorry, Hungary, of course. I'm so sorry. But in Germany, it was actually only grown in Württemberg.
Yes.
Traditionally, and now it starts little by little that other regions plant it as well
In Pfalz,
because
in
they
Baden,
realize
they
it's
take
actually
some.
a nice place.
It's
nice
it's a
variety.
beautiful variety. I mean, here, every time that you work with this variety, it feels like, okay, it's the right place for this variety. And also in the harvest time when we take the grapes, and it tastes, it feels, it smells right.
It's
It's
great
actually,
potential.
it's very nice to work with because obviously every variety has some, not weaknesses, but specialties, let's
Yeah, of
say.
course.
With Lemberger, you have to take care with oidium a bit and
Pinot
so
Noir
on.
is a little bitchy in the vineyard.
Pinot Noir or in the cellar is a bit like, you know, oxidation dangers and so on. But Lemberger is, I don't know, we deal with it a lot. We like it a lot.
We have a lot of old vineyards here, which obviously we know produce a fantastic quality the older they are. And that was a big motivation for us because we were working in Austria as well in 2013, just before we came back here. And it motivated us even more. And we had the feeling, okay, we have limestone, which is obviously a great terroir. Yeah? If you study the wine world, they say the limestone is fantastic.
Argilo-calcaire.
Argilo-calcaire, all of France. So we have old vineyards, we have south-facing vineyards and terraces. So the basis looks actually good, could produce interesting or good wine. And we saw in Austria and Hungary, of course, that you can make fantastic wine out of Lemberger and Keck-Frankos. So we thought, okay, you find examples of them in Württemberg. But the style that we saw in Austria, for example, this more elegant, very light, not too full body, we liked very much. And we thought, let's try this here.
Yes, and we wanted this kind of style more. But we knew from the beginning how we wanted to work with, you know. We had a very specific imagination of how to work the vineyards and how to work in the cellar. And we hope that through this way, the result that comes out is the one that we are having in our minds. You know, you never know. You know, I mean, Hannes grew up here, but you never really worked. We both never really worked here. After you have studied, then you have like a different point of view and so on. So we worked the way we wanted to, and the result was very good for us. We liked it, and that's why we said, okay, we can imagine doing this for the rest of our lives because it's something that, I mean, definitely it's not an Austrian Lemberger, or it's not like, you know,
like the
Hungarian
Riesling is not
and
from
so
Mosel.
on. It has its own style. What came out of it is definitely very individual, but it was real, you know, and it was authentic, and we liked it.
And we are not just tasting the Pinot Noir, actually.
Yes.
Sorry to go back, but it's just made a big impression on me. It's really, really expressive already on the nose. I didn't taste it, like I smelled it 4 or 5 times before I tasted it. It's really has this light burgundy-like flavor, I think, because it's not only this strawberry and this kind of, but it's like an underlying a light earthiness kind of this.
Well, you have the berries and you have like
Yeah,
this
really,
thing, but
really.
not it's not a fruit bomb. We
No.
say it's also in German. It's not.
I have this more like when you pick the strawberries not from the supermarket but from the soil.
Oh, we have some up there. Yes.
We have a lot here.
Yeah.
I will bring you some later.
But but
I
also
want.
It's my
also
glass.
there is some dirt on it, you know, like this kind of strawberry. It's really
True.
expressive.
You have this earthiness of it. Yeah.
But really lightly, like a kind of sandy kind of. Now people are just looking at us enviously. We are drinking wine at the table.
Probably they will come and say, "Is there a tasting? Can we also have a glass of wine?"
12 euros the glass.
Open a place here.
Well, if we had the time, we would be here on Sunday and serve a glass of wine. It would really.
It's perfect, and people walking fast through here.
It's a very nice walk in the middle of the.
Yeah.
If you are not afraid of heights.
Yeah. But it's also very present acidity on this wine, so really not burnt out.
And what 18 has that the other vintages don't is also the kind of like the tannin structure.
Yeah.
We have for our
wines.
level, yes,
Yeah.
because normally we have very soft tannins because we don't extract at all during fermentation. We just wet the cap and that's it. There is no pump overs, there's no remontage, nothing. So they extract the wines, but they extract through time, you know, and they stay on the skins for weeks, so they have the time to extract, but they extract only what they want to. You know, we don't push it.
But this Pinot Noir also for
Yes.
weeks? Oh, okay.
Yes.
Yeah. But we don't work it, you know. So if you punch down 2-3 times a day, or if you pump around, if you do pump overs, you extract much more, obviously, mechanically.
And we didn't want
And
that.
we on purpose don't do this because we believe it makes a more balanced wine.
It's still something that you push, you know. We leave them to do what they want to do.
I mean, it gets some temperature, it has CO2, it produces alcohol. All of this extracts automatically, especially alcohol is very aggressive. So
it
there
will
is an
extract what they
extraction,
want. So.
I mean, you will see on Lemberger when we taste it later, when you leave Lemberger 3 days on the skins and you stump it a bit, you have an amazing color. And I mean, in science, many people always say you have to leave it for 7 days and then you get the real color before you
and
don't.
control the temperature.
Lemberger has
and
an
blah,
amazing
blah.
color. It just takes 2-3 days and you have all the color you need. So, yeah.
But now this, wow, really particular taste, because now it's a really long aftertaste, really fruity, but then it also has like this underlying earthiness that I get from the nose, and it's going more into this, not this jammy but desiccated strawberry kind of, but not sweet, but it's really something, you know. And
This vintage actually has this strawberry thing,
Yes.
which I kind of like. It's cool.
Yes, but it's
We had
because
more
of this
like-
warmth, I think.
We had before the vintages before were more herby,
And also more like sour
more
cherry and
kind of ish, yeah. But this is because it was a warm year,
or more
early
cassis. We had also
early
a lot
harvest.
of cassis before,
Yeah,
but now it's getting on the
and
soft
also
fruit.
10.8 alcohol. Very low in alcohol. Yeah.
It's actually nice because you drink
It's
a bottle
nice,
and
yeah.
you're fine.
you can drink another one.
Yes, and you can still drive.
But really nice mouthfeel. So it's long, but really not the alcohol is not disturbing or anything. Very everything
How?
it's like a fruit juice and really light body, kind of feminine.
And you know,
Really
this
beautiful.
wine is also very good to drink it a bit temperate. You know,
Mhm.
not like chill it. We always put it in the fridge before we drink it, and then we take it out because it will get warm on its own in the glass or on the table.
Immediately. Yeah.
But it tastes good when if it's a bit chilled.
Because it doesn't have a lot of tannins, you can drink it chilled.
Yes.
Yeah.
And everything is so much in balance. So it's because I think it's also not in the bitch, not only a bitch in the vineyard, the Pinot Noir, but also in the cellar, right? It's hard
Yes,
to find this
definitely.
balance when
Actually, more in the cellar than in the vineyard.
right?
I mean, in the vineyard, they have a lot of like double roots, double
Shoots,
shoots.
yeah.
Sorry.
Okay.
So you need to do a lot of shoot thinning in the beginning because they are very fertile as a variety, so it get really crowded. but then you're actually quite peaceful.
okay.
Yeah, it's okay.
It's okay.
But in the cellar, you should know a bit how to work with it. I mean, they can also accept more wood than Lemberger does. So if you have some new barrels or you have smaller barrels, so you have more wood surface, you might want to use them with Pinot more than with Lemberger.
Yeah.
Pinot can take it a bit more, which is surprising, but it's also because of the oxidation agents that they have. And you should take care a bit more with oxygen than Lemberger.
Yeah.
And why is it? Because you studied in Geisenheim, so you could maybe explain it why it is this difference.
It has to do with the chains of and the polymerization of the tannins.
Okay.
So the tannin structure that they have. That every variety, I'm not really sure. I forgot almost everything of it, but I think the polymerization and the breaking of the chains of the tannins happens more easily with Pinot than with Lemberger. So you have less stable structures, and that's why they bind easier and faster with oxygen than it would happen with Lemberger. And you can see it also, in the color. I mean, these are the anthocyanins more, but they also belong to the whole tannin family. Actually, they're called polyphenols. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, it's a long time ago.
But Lemberger has the more stable ones and the longer chains, and Pinot has has shorter chains, and that's why they have more edges to combine, and bind with other agents like oxygen.
Whatever, yeah.
But then in my limited sommelier kind of mind, it would be like a kind of controversy that Pinot Noir takes barrel aging more easily, or takes barrel or wood more easily than.
Yes, because they have more surfaces to bind, so they bind more with the good tannins. Okay. So they can absorb them more.
Okay.
And that's why you don't taste them much. And Lemberger has longer chains, so less surface to bind. So they don't really absorb the good tannins.
More.
So the good tannins that you get in the wine, they stay as good tannins, so you taste them more. If they are combined in the chains, you don't taste them that much.
Okay, now I understood it. Now I understand it.
I'm not even sure it's right, but it feels right.
But it feels right, yeah. We should believe it.
Sounds great.
And it works. So.
Actually, it does work. Yeah, it does.
I think that's it, huh? That's the one.
Yeah. You have a master's degree.
Yeah.
And this is sheep cheese?
Yes, from Greece.
Yeah?
Yes.
But it fits also quite good with the cheese, with the wine.
It's
really nice.
This distinctive taste.
Yes.
Really goes well.
Also a bit spiciness, like.
Craviera.
Kefalotiri.
It's kefalotiri.
It's sheep, yes.
Beautiful. And sorry, I didn't ask right away, but what was your idea to work in a winery or a vineyard? Because you said you had a very...
Before we went to, or we started to go into the wine business, you mean?
Exactly. Or what's your idea of winemaking, and also working in the cellar, what you wanted to implement?
Well,
you mean the philosophy behind it?
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
Huh. Well, I think it's what we said probably before. You are there as a human being or as a winemaker to interfere if you need to. But besides that, you're just there to support, to give the message what you want from them, from the vines or from the wines later in the cellar. But you're not the one making it. You're the one guiding it a bit, It's like, you see it when we get like fresh vineyards, because we rent the vineyards for, 20 years, but it's not everything that we don't own all the vineyards. And the first year that you get the vineyard, this also has to do a lot, I think, with biodynamics. The vineyard is very irritated because it doesn't get what it used to get. It used to get to really be pruned for a lot of yield. It got fertilized a lot. You could see like also the human presence in the vineyard a lot. And then suddenly it doesn't. I mean, it gets some teas and it gets some, the biodynamic preparations and so on. And we prune it quite short. So you see, in the first year, it's completely irritated. What happens with me right now?
It's more fragile also.
It's more fragile. It might get more sick. And then the second year, you see it a bit calming down, you know. And in the third year, you actually see your influence to it. And it's the same also in the cellar. The first year, the grapes are completely, they don't know what is happening now, you know, because they don't get moved, they don't get filtered, they don't get sulfured, nothing.
No additives, nothing, no guidance in a way.
You know, fermentation, a long fermentation with the skins, and then in an old barrel and blah, blah, blah. So it's something that they're not used to it. So in the first year, they're completely out of space. You have to blend them with the other grapes and the other vineyards that you have to keep the balance. And then, you know, also in the third year, they say, okay, I know now what's going on with me. And
I think you can basically say what we do, we take out the energy that was too much.
yes.
So we just make it, I mean, we use the word again, but we try to balance it in its life in a way, in its
Yes.
way of growing, in its way of producing leaves, shoots, grapes, size of berries.
But
things
that's why
like
it's
this.
not the same in every vineyard, you know. We don't have like the recipe that, you know, each vineyard has its own balance, which means some vineyards need to be more vigorous. Or for example, Lemberger in general needs to be more vigorous, needs to have more grapes than
There's
a
big
Pinot.
leaves, you know.
And so we let them show what they want. So we observe them also, like in the first couple of years, and we see, okay, this one it's a bit more work, for example, a bit more shoot thinning and so on. This one doesn't need it all. We keep it like this, and also with the pruning and so on. So
You have to take it individually. I mean, if you have a vineyard which is 15 years old, it's still very young and very strong. So you have to give it the opportunity to produce more grapes than a vineyard which is 45 years old or even older. It just makes sense. So if you cut it down and let's say 4 weeks before harvest, you go through and you cut off some of the grapes, it's going to be completely irritating for the vine because it is still young and so energetic that it has the power to produce this much grapes, this amount of
so
grapes.
why would you limit it? It's
So you will.
It's like telling a 20-year-old boy.
That's what I wanted to say.
Not
with children.
yes, not
Yeah.
to run, not to do sports, not to go drinking and so on. But this is the age where they have to do it. And then telling a 60-year-old guy to start making a marathon and so on. I mean, of course it exists, but you know, it's
No, but if you start with 60, it's more difficult. I mean, if
Exactly.
you've done it all your life, it's okay.
yes.
Yeah, so how old are your vineyards actually? Most all of them.
Well, we have
Fairs.
one very young in Rostock, which is terraced Lemberger, which is 2 years old. We planted this,
Yes.
but the majority is between, let's say, 20 and 50. So we love old vines, and we rented a lot of very old vines that many people would probably take out and plant new because the rows are very narrow.
Okay.
So what we basically do, we adjust the machine to the vineyard and not the other way around.
Which is actually very, very
Because you know we
very
have terraced vineyards about
time
half of
spending.
our size, which means this is hand work anyways.
Yeah.
So we cannot work them with a tractor with any machine.
Yeah.
And then we have some that we can work with a little caterpillar,
Okay.
and some with a little old tractor. So
But that's
it's
why
quite
we-
diverse. It's a big effort actually.
That's why we
Um,
cannot grow that fast. I mean, we have now a little bit more than 2 hectares.
Okay.
And I mean, we take vineyards every year, but you cannot take half a hectare of terraces in 1 year. You know, you need somebody to work it, and it's just the
It's
two
about
of us.
4 to 5 times the time and work compared to a vineyard that you can drive with a tractor.
And you work yourself, or you work also with other people from the village, or how should we imagine?
It's just the two of us and
Just the two of
my father-in-law, who is now in pension and
Wow.
helps
Yeah,
us.
my father was a teacher, so the family basically helps a lot.
And my
and-
parents, when they're here,
And her parents,
they help a
do,
lot.
yeah, they're super motivated as well. We have some friends which help here and there, of course.
But
Yeah,
we
we
don't
cannot
have any
complain.
employee.
And harvest is
employees.
basically friends and family.
So, and
Yeah.
do you think that's the kind of limit, like 2 hectares, what you can work
No, I
Like
think we
this?
could. Well, we
without employees? I mean.
I mean, without employees permanently, I think the double would be possible.
Yes.
You might need some
Seasonal
people
workers.
for the leaf canopy management, I think
You
it's
know,
called.
in May and June and so on.
Because in these 3 weeks, you should be everywhere at the same time. And even if you work full-time, 2 people, it might be possible, but
But you
it's a
might
big
need
running
some
around.
support. And also, like during harvest, well, we're done because in the cellar, if you're 2 persons and if we both work completely,
you know, we
fully
don't
in
do
the
much
cellar,
in the cellar, so
it's
there's
fine.
no filtration. There is no much pumping around, so
Yes.
it's not. It's crushing
I mean,
basically
of course,
after
you will
harvest.
have long days, but this is harvest. I mean, come on.
It's fun. I mean,
We have, and we try, and it works, but we always need more people at harvest, and we cannot employ somebody, so we have family and friends that come and help and
which is
support us,
fantastic
which is
and also
nice, very
beautiful.
nice. You know, we just make them food and we have a nice break in the vineyard, picnic, and then we eat all together. And this is all we can give them, you know, and some wine, definitely. But
what else do you need? I mean,
yes, and I hope it will work for a long time.
You see, I mean, and most of the people, they see the same way, like you said.
But you know,
they love it. They come for fun. They love chatting with other people.
But
they just love cutting grapes and have this harvest feeling, because it's a wine growing region, and if you come from here, you grow up with it. There's no other way. I mean,
but you still see the difference in generations, you know, like the older generations, they respect it and they value it much more because they grew up with it. So of course they come and they help and so on. And the newer generation, they still like it, but you know,
they're not so much influenced by it. How?
Yes, they don't have so much bondness to agriculture and nature. So they might have their office jobs and so on, and engineer jobs. And here it's a very rich industrial area. So, and they don't have this bondness to nature that much. They would rather go on holiday in beginning of September, you know, end of August, and so then, But I think
all they are friends with us, so we forbid them to go on vacation in September.
They know it by now. July is fine, beginning of August is fine.
No, guys, come on, you can't go on vacation in September. It's harvest. Oh, sorry, you're right.
Yeah, but maybe I think in general it's true, but I think that's why, because they kind of lost the touch with nature. A lot of people seek this kind of work, I think.
Yes, I think so too.
I think you're right.
If you communicate it, maybe we a bit more, you know, because we have some cities around us like Stuttgart and Heidelberg and so on, Heilbronn, for example. I think there will be a lot of interest, yes.
But you don't have to forget, it's hard work. It's hard work. I mean, harvest is fun, it's beautiful, and you come for one day, you cut the grapes, it's all good. But I'm not complaining at all. I love it.
My mom is cooking, so
doing it every day. But it can be hard work, and I think, I'm not sure if many people understand.
Yesterday I planted 3 vines and I was sweating like a dog. So.
And you look like as if you're in good shape.
It's hard work, and also in these terraced wineries or terraced vineyards.
It can get really hot, really hot.
And the funny part is that it is ancient like it used to be. Because
there's
you bring a tool,
in it.
you walk there, you climb there in a way, and you work there, and you take your tools and you leave again. Yeah.
And also at this point, I think we should mention that we sit in a true biodynamic winery, because I've never seen so many bugs actually.
It's actually wild. It's actually,
you notice they're full of pollen on their feet. All
it's
of
actually
them.
wild bees and wild wasps.
Which is actually very rare. The vineyard here has a lot of wild bees.
They love these places. They nest in the soil on a steep slope, so they dig small holes, and obviously they love it when the sun is like heating up their house all the time.
Yes.
And it only works when you don't like drive over all the time, you know.
You don't
this
mow.
This is a big advantage of the biodiversity of terraced vineyards. There is usually any noise of machines. There is no pressure on the soil at all, because if you drive with nowadays, I mean, of course, it's also an economic reason. I understand perfectly clear. But if you have one of the new modern tractors, they weigh between 3 and 4 tons. plus trailer, plus whatever machine you use. And if you drive through your vineyard 15 times a year minimum or even more, this is a huge pressure for your soil.
Yes.
And in terraces, it's just impossible. So it's a huge difference, I believe, in the life you see
habitat,
in the soils here.
We have really animals in the vineyards. We have rabbits and
Foxes, I mean,
and
you find
foxes and anything. All like the really wild birds are in our vineyard because they have food.
And
you know?
funnily, although it's extremely hot here because it's so steep and south facing, we have, I think this is a limestone thing, I'm not sure. We have a lot of snails with the
Yes.
houses, the beautiful ones. It's crowded, it's full everywhere. And I don't really get it because it's a super hot place, but they love this somehow.
Yeah.
So I guess the French would go crazy.
Probably, yes. But I think it's also with the limestone thing. They like the
I think they like it.
limestone taste, probably. I don't know.
They lick it.
Yeah.
Maybe.
So, and I tend to read a lot about biodynamics these days, but maybe I should ask you because you live it. So what is maybe the key difference between organic and biodynamic in like what you can scientifically prove and what is not scientifically proven, or what you believe rather?
Okay. Where to start? I mean, it's actually very good to say what is scientifically proven for people that don't have any attachment to biodynamics. And what you can prove with different methods, there are methods to prove it, is the vitality, the health, and the viability, let's say, the ripeness also of the plant and of the product that comes out of it. So you can definitely see on the plant if it's like from a leaf, from the grape, and then also from the wine that is made out of it. Supposedly you make the wine also with the same philosophy as you work the vineyard, that it has more balance, more vitality, and has a healthy aging
Potential.
Yes. This is what you can prove
It's more a
scientifically.
living product.
Yes,
I
it's a
think that's
vivid
a
product.
good term.
And okay, but just maybe at this point,
Yes.
why it is that it's with lower added sulfur? So
I mean,
so
you have to
say-
start from the production in the field.
Okay.
I mean, it doesn't matter if it's wheat, dinkel, apples, vegetables, whatever, vineyards. It starts basically out there. This is the main difference. I mean, it's not in the cellar. There's some certain rules that you have to, or there's some certain things you're not allowed to do in the cellar, for example. But the main difference is actually in agriculture outside.
In the soil, actually.
So to answer your question, what's the main difference? I mean, in biodynamics, we take the organic principle as a basis, and on top, we work with preparations.
You work more, well, the preparations or the teas and all the extra stuff that you do, they represent the forces of the nature itself and of your habitat, of your environment. So you take more advantage of the influence that you might have from the weather, from your soil, from all the herbs that grow around you. You take more advantage of them and you use them more in order to promote first your soil activity, because this is the food of the vine,
This is basically everything we have, yes.
Your soil. And through your soil, what the things that your plant will absorb to be, again, in balance. So biodynamics take advantage of, for example, the chamomile and the nettle and the equisetum. They're like wild herbs that grow naturally in your habitat. And if you take them and extract the advantages that these plants have and bring them again to the plant, then you give them the message to take the things out of it, you know. And if you work with, for example, with the cow manure, which is, the cow is actually a very vivid and very useful plant, animal. you give the message to the soil to work more with what they have, you know, with the pH and with the worms and the whole habitat they have, the physics that happen, the water retention that you have and everything. It might sound to some people like hocus pocus, but you just observe what happens around me a bit more, you know.
And you see it. You see the difference. It's not, I mean, we're not crazy people and believe in, look, we spray preparations and now everything looks better. You see a difference in your vineyards. I mean, you can talk to Jochen Beurer, who's doing this probably 10 years longer than we do. He told me at the beginning that after a few years, he said, you look on all the vineyards in the village, and you could pick out his vineyards. You saw the difference, just only in color, for example.
On the green,
and the way they grow. It's a huge difference. And afterwards, of course, in the way that the wines taste. And like age, for example, how they ferment, how the acidity, to come back to what we said before,
how they
tastes
age,
and
how
is
this
living.
is very important. If we have, so imagine this valley here, yes, and if you had one field completely conventional, one field organic, and one field biodynamic, you will, I swear, you would definitely see the difference in the greenness, the green that they have. You know, the conventional would
and
be
in growing as well,
blue-green, really dark because of the whole fertilization that they get, and also of the seeds that they use. The organic one would be lighter green, and the biodynamic would be almost super light green, like very almost yellow green, you know, because you see it, you see it's the difference, because it's
much less pushed.
Yes.
Yeah.
And in organic viticulture, what kind of help can you use?
You can use all of it if you want to.
You mean in products, spraying?
Products,
I mean, you're not allowed to use chemical fertilizer. You're not allowed to use
mineral
herbicide, like glyphosate, for example. There are fertilizers that come either from
natural
smashed
bases,
animal parts like feathers, claws. You can use any kind of compost, of course,
or from the
like
beer
byproducts
industry.
from the beer industry, stuff like this. There are many different products that you can use. The most traditional one, that's also why biodynamics work like this, is that you had your own animals on a farm. They produced manure, of course, and this is what you made to a compost, which is perfectly fertile black soil, and this is what you give to your plants. So it's a circle, and the whole idea is based on an organism, a farm as an organism, a whole circle. So without hardly or any inputs from outside.
This is
the biodynamic principle.
But this, unfortunately, nowadays not.
So we adjust this
possible.
in a way.
We adjust this. I mean, of course, the human is also in the center of it, because this is the reason why everything happens. You know, otherwise we would just have wild vines growing on forest trees.
No, it's a cultivation.
It's a cultivation, definitely, but it's a circle. Everything interprets, everything interacts with everything, you know, and you try to get less influence from outside, like to buy external fertilizers, to buy external spraying things and so on. So that's why we try, and we do it actually. All the herbs that we spray as teas, they grow in our farm, in the garden, and the only fertilization we take from a farmer from the village, the cow manure, but
cow and
we don't have
manure,
our own cows.
We make it compost.
And we bring it out, and so that everything stays close to each other, you know. That's why they say, for example, if you're allergic to pollen, you should eat a lot of honey from the region where you live, so that your body gets adapted to the pollens.
And if you think about it, that's what they say.
You should.
That's what they say. Yeah.
You should. Yeah. And also eat like the wax of the bees that are.
And if you think about it, if you work like this, this is the most sustainable. You can do it for generations, for thousands of years, because you don't need anything else. Everything will grow. Everything will live and die. It just keeps going on. You don't need to rely on any Chinese company that's producing chemical fertilizer, and if it goes bankrupt, what do? You have to find some, or you have a corona and it's not going to be delivered. You know, it just continues and it makes sense. Yeah.
And also, I think your T-shirt really screams this philosophy because you have a you can't eat
True.
money,
True.
money T-shirt.
You can't eat money. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Well, actually, that's not true. When we were kids, they had this kind of paper
Yeah.
money bills that you could eat. I remember.
Or the coin chocolates,
eating
which are
paper.
horrible. Like you get already as a child used to money and capitalism, but whatever.
Yeah, but that's true. That's,
Well,
that's,
yeah.
That's the only thing a nation have, right? The soil. If you don't have a soil,
Exactly.
then
I
If
think this is one of the
we
most
lose
important
everything if we
things
don't have
that we
our
have to
soil.
understand.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I think the coronavirus actually gave a hint.
I
to
hope.
people.
Maybe.
Maybe
hope.
a hope as well, but also like a hint because everybody was very not about the newest BMW, but if the supermarket will
If
be
they get
open.
food.
Yeah, if you get food,
Toilet paper.
right? And fucking toilet paper. Yeah.
I never understood this thing with the toilet
Yeah.
paper.
I have a
but-
theory about that, but yeah. No, because also I think if you buy toilet papers, they have a much bigger package,
Yes.
and maybe you can just store maybe 13 at a supermarket. But if 30 people buys a toilet paper, maybe 2 or 3, it's a much better impact visually. I think if you low on toilet papers than maybe on little things, you know.
Because
And I
it's
think that, but that's
Mm.
only my and there is no other product for this.
so it's a psychological aspect behind it.
Kind of, I think, and also like, yeah, but
Could be.
there is no supplementary product for this, you know, because if you buy rice, you can buy potato, or you can buy canned, I don't know.
True,
corn,
true.
But there is only one toilet paper, or that's what people think. You can also do your thing with.
There is
with the
water,
tissue.
but okay.
Yeah, or with water or the tissue. It's basically paper, but yeah, but that's only my.
When my grandfather was young, he said they always used newspaper.
If you are a leftist, you use a right
Yeah.
newspaper.
You're right.
So, anyways.
Anyways,
Yeah, so
you are wealthy, you're rich if you have your own land, if you grow your own food.
It feels amazing.
It's
Yeah,
it's
it feels
another
amazing.
wealth, you know. It's another
it feels safe.
luxury. It
Absolutely.
feels safe.
If you if you grow what you eat and drink, we try this. We have a huge vegetable garden, and we try to do more and more ourselves. So we get, for example, we get beef from Mühlhausen from a friend who has.
The cows are. You don't see them now. They're behind this house, you know, on the horizon.
Okay.
They're
Yes,
farming like
exactly. Behind
10,
them are the
10
cows.
12 Galloway cows, and they slaughter like 2 or 3 a year, and they just sell it to friends.
And then, do you think the vines
It's
take up
fantastic. It works.
more nutrients from the soil, or what is changing if we would maybe look at the vine like in the chemistry?
Yes.
Like what would be less, what would be more, which promotes more aging?
If you give the message to the vine to absorb more, it will absorb more. So this is what the biodynamic preparations do, the 500 and the 501. The 501 gives the message to the vine to absorb from the environment, from the sun, from the air, from the moon, and so on. And the 500 activates the soil activity and the soil absorption from the plant, so that the plant takes more up. Yes. But this is how you communicate it, you know, with this. This is what I told you in the beginning with the vineyard gets the message that we give it to him in the beginning, and you know that it takes a couple of years. This is what biodynamics is also all about. To, as a human being, to be there, but just support them, you know, give them the message and then they do it by themselves.
Yeah, it's kind of like taking care of a child. Probably.
It's kind of
You can give
parenthood,
them
yes.
advice, but yeah.
It's a very good
You
example.
should not be above it. You should be behind it,
Yeah,
like
sure,
support it.
yeah.
If you push too much, it's not going to work anyways.
Yeah.
You will get it back.
Yes,
Exactly.
true.
And if you have a stubborn child, he's not gonna do it for sure.
No,
No.
with a stubborn, you should be even more
Yeah, exactly.
open, you know, and
So, but this Lemberger, which is in front of us,
be right
it's
back.
really beautiful. I tasted it already, but maybe you should tell us. But I'm excited. But Hannes, what would you think about the wine?
Well, we always say we don't have a sommelier way of tasting.
No, you should.
So I can guess the fruits and stuff like this.
Yeah, but it's not. I think. Okay.
For me, I mean, this is Lemberger Endschleife 2017. The Endschleife is our, let's call it, premium line. Just to explain you, Endschleife, the word actually comes from this river, which is called Enz.
Okay.
You write it E-N-Z. And it kind of makes between those 2-3 villages, it kind of makes a double loop. So it's quite pretty, actually.
It is.
And very natural way, still. And we wanted to use this term because we thought this is actually what makes the terroir, this river. It kind of built probably millions of years ago, those slopes where our vineyards are on. But for some whatever reason, we couldn't really use the term Endschleife. So we changed the Z to a D. You know, it's called Endschleife. In German, it kind of, yeah, she's laughing. It kind of makes, it's funny, and it kind of made sense. And it's good, we like it. Anyways, 17, to give you a short information about the vintage. What compared to the last two ones was a bit cooler vintage. We had frost, late frost in mid-April. So the production was reduced by about 30%. We have the feeling that frost years you can taste. So the wines are always a bit more passive. They need more time. They're a bit more shy, you could say. And I always have the feeling for this wine that maybe it's just me. Probably somebody else wouldn't realize without knowing this information. But it kind of is shy in a way. But it develops great. So when we opened this last night, I was very surprised, I have to say. I'm trying to explain the Lemberger.
Can you make a video about this, please?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Can you give me the big bottle again?
Yeah.
So I have some wine. Thank you.
And can you, or maybe when the video is running, because the label is also very cool, I think.
You want me to pour when the video is running?
No, it's okay.
Okay.
Everything should be natural as much as possible.
Palakala.
Is it okay?
Yeah.
Looks comfortable for you.
Yeah.
You can also put it on the triangle, no? In the window.
I tried. Is there a camera in the triangle?
No. This is, you can put it there.
That's why it's good. It's not live. Kind of modified. You know, yesterday when we were in next to Stuttgart, we also said that it's like she lives in Germany for 8 years, I think, right? Yeah. Yes, 8 years. And especially if you are a tourist, you cannot, or even if you live here, you cannot really experience a place where you go to, like a friend, like a strange place where you go to if you are a tourist and you don't have anybody or anyone to know at the place, because that's how you can get this unique experience, is just to sit in a vineyard with some glass of wine and
I agree.
And
we never really like going just somewhere without knowing anybody.
No.
Yeah.
And we're lucky because for where we studied, and she studied in Montpellier, also for 1.5 years, we know a lot of people. And whenever you go somewhere, not whenever, but and many times you go there because you want to meet those people.
Even if you just
and so
visit
you're
the
not a
places.
tourist in a classical way.
Exactly.
You're always an insider in a way.
Yeah.
And this is what we love. I mean,
you have much more information about the lifestyle and how people. So like, for example, I had an idea already about Stuttgart.
Yeah.
Like where I was there earlier, but now I went there for this little tasting in the next to a village or something, like in a little house where 20 people just sat there and drink wine by bottle under a vine. I could never imagine this picture about Stuttgart in my mind. But if you know,
you only saw the star of Mercedes
Kind of, yeah.
and
No, but
shiny
just
sports
you're
cars.
yeah, exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
You see?
No, but it's true.
Yeah.
Even here, if you're in the farm and you sit in the balcony, you will have every 10 minutes you will have a Porsche or a Mercedes that
Right?
will just
It's the industry.
And then you get a picture like, okay, these people are money heads and
no, but I
industrial
mean,
people and
Yeah, this
to
is
be
the
honest,
picture you get now.
to be honest, a big part of it is also like this.
Well, you got like this now.
It got very capitalist and money driven area, you know, and the people and also the industry and the way of living is like this. I mean, people are rich, very rich here, but still very, you know, you have like rich areas and rich areas. You will see the rich areas that are like the old money, you know, that you'll see this aristocratic stuff and so on, and you will see the big money, industry money, yes. And sometimes I feel also, you know, because I have a different point of view than Hannes, because I come from a different culture, you lose a lot of quality, life quality, because you're industry and money driven. And this is something that I wish it will change a bit in the future.
Because many things which, as you said before, what else do you need? Many things like this get lost because people, in a way, because of the possibilities they have with the money they have, they lose the focus and the real point of what's actually most important.
Right.
I mean, what does it help? Of course, it's nice. Don't get me wrong; it's nice to such a nice car, and it's impressive technique, and of course.
But you can't
But
eat
what
it.
I mean, for me, compared to a fantastic vegetable garden, I would never change it. I mean, it sounds stupid to many people, but
it's
this
not
gives you
only-
so much pleasure in any way. It's so beautiful,
You will
or a
see- you
beautiful
will have-
vineyard to work it and to live with it in a way and do it for 10, 20, 30, maybe all your life. If you see the old guys that are going to the vineyards every day till they're 90, almost dying in the vineyards, they all seem super happy. Because it
Of
just
course, they have a
slows you
red
down.
nose and a big belly.
Yeah,
from
they
the-
take some wine with it and they drink
But-
it in the vineyard or in the evening, and they know this is what I produced. Even maybe if it's not super tasty, it doesn't matter, but it makes them happy and it makes them proud.
And you
it-
know,
yeah.
automatically by adapting this kind of philosophy, you don't complain. You have so many people here, they complain for small stuff.
Right.
For, the train is again 5 minutes late. Really? Are you kidding me?
Now I have one day off and it's raining. Damn it!
So what? You know, they complain because if you hear them complaining, all you need to say is like, "Boah, you have a really high quality of life to complain only about these things." You know,
But then your standard is up higher.
super high,
Yeah, well.
super high. That's the thing.
I
And
mean, on the other hand, we're super happy and lucky that we're living in such a period and we don't have any problems. We don't have war. We don't have
exactly, exactly,
hunger.
Never have to worry about
Don't get us wrong. I mean,
exactly.
we're not complaining.
Yeah,
Yeah. But it's just a little bit sad sometimes.
You lose the
that,
focus
yeah.
sometimes, and yeah.
Kind of. But it's also when we drove through Stuttgart through this area, like I saw these big houses and with really no garden at all. That's what we usually
Or just
see.
stones, just
stones,
gravels.
Yeah, exactly. Where we mow and no garden, maybe some flowers to show the neighbors, and you know two big cars.
Yes,
Yeah.
a
No
big
garden,
garage.
Big garage.
This
and
is
a
what
lot of
Mark-
electricity which you have to produce. Maybe some solar powers, yes. But then after all, really what you have is the money what you earn at a factory or at an agency or wherever you work, and then you buy a newer stuff and then you put more stuff into this little place what you own. But then actually what your ancestors had for thousands of years, you really lost it.
And you don't have the time to spend the money that you earn.
To give you an example, which fits pretty well, here in this village where we're sitting right now, 20 years ago, as a foreigner, it was impossible to rent or to buy a vineyard. They wouldn't just give it to you because you're a foreigner and no.
You had
mean,
to come from
you
Mulhouse or
own
have
it,
relatives in Mulhouse.
Your family works it, and for whatever reason, this might not be possible, you give it to your neighbor. This is the first person to ask. And now you can see just over there, you have one vineyard and just around the corner there is more which is not worked anymore at all. You get this kind of for free. So if you go to the person and say, "Can I work your vineyard?" He says like, "Yeah, please do it."
I don't need
just
any
take
money.
care
Just
of it.
somebody works it.
20 years ago.
Yes.
So you see, I mean, it's not important anymore. We have a lot of people here who are idealists who do it for fun because they have good jobs. They don't have to do it, but they love it because they grew up. Their parents and grandparents were working the vineyards, and they just like it, you know. But there is no need at all. They just do it for fun. It's a hobby, so they have a little tractor. They're all very good at mechanics, so they build many things by themselves, and they love it. But it's just for fun. So if for whatever reason the company says, "Listen, you have to work more," or the husband, the wife, whatever partner says, "Listen, I don't like this that you go there all the time. I want to go on vacation all of June," which is impossible when you have a vineyard. It's gone. They sell it, they give it, they rent it. It's done. And generations before, there was no question. This is the vineyard. You were proud to work this vineyard. I mean, they were much more looking to your neighbor because everything was not so global, and they said like, the neighbor just like worked the soil all the time. We have to do it today because how does it look? Not all of this was good, anyways, but it's a huge development lately, which is a bit sad in a way. Or undevelopment.
It's full
change.
of wild bees, eh?
It's
Full.
full of wild bees, I know.
And they're full of pollen.
But
So
I also
nice.
saw it in. We have like a little house next to Lake Balaton, and when I was like, I'm 27 years old, but I remember like 20 years ago, kind of, all our neighbors had vineyards or at least a garden, or some fruit trees, or.
But in Hungary, this is typical. It used to be.
Well, it used to be, but it's declining. And like all the people had a little something, you know, just to grow, or at least a lot of flowers, who were like a flower crazy woman, kind of, because
Paprika.
Yeah, also like paprika, yeah, but something. But now, if you go there, they have more like a pool. They have they replant, they dig out the soil and they put a new soil in it to have a nicer looking grass.
Yeah.
Which looks nice.
Which comes from a company somewhere.
Exactly, right? But then
From China.
yeah, exactly, maybe. But then actually after 2 years, the old soil or the old grass will grow.
Of course, nature comes back, and whatever you do, we will not.
Exactly.
We will never win again over nature.
True.
Never.
Forget it. It's impossible. If you work places like this and soils, you will realize after a while. I mean, you can try to do an impact for a certain time, but when you're gone, somebody else has to take it over, or it will take it over.
Yeah, exactly.
And you have to understand this, otherwise you go crazy. There's always going to be work. I mean, it just keeps growing, and this is very good.
And you would always see it as a battle. You have to work against it if you think that way. But if you can work with it and help it and nurture it, as you said, maybe, then you also have a better feeling.
You have to work with it, not against it. This is one of the most important things. But I have to say that in our younger generation, there are, not all of them, of course, but there are people who have a more, let's say, green mind. They reflect.
Well, it is also our generation. It is the fashion of the generation to be green.
Yes.
I mean,
and
which
I
is
have
good.
hope. I have hope in this actually.
A lot is fake, but or like superficial.
Yes, but it's true.
A
But
lot is
still,
also
I mean,
very
if
good.
they reduce waste, if they start to grow their own vegetables, even if it's just like 3 tomato plants
even
on
they buy
a
only
balcony,
organic, you know, or from local
it's
shops.
great.
It's a huge difference.
It's great, yeah. If they prefer to go on vacation by bicycle, fantastic. Yeah.
Even the whole e-bikes that are, it's an amazing it's an amazing development, you know. You see so many people biking, or like older people and so on. It's perfect. Instead of driving a cabrio, they have e-bikes.
And because of Corona, you actually see how many people there are.
Yes.
Okay. So can we taste the?
It's on.
It's still on.
Yeah.
Is it straight? Is it?
Yeah, it's straight.
Okay. So we are tasting the.
We're tasting Lemberger Endschleife 2017. the Endschleife is is always well, it's maybe a coincidence, maybe not. It's the oldest vineyards that we have. It's two, more or less, 2-3 little pieces. They are between 45 and about 50 years old, more or less. And they produce just fantastic fruit grapes, which are super tasty.
From the beginning, they
from the
had a
beginning.
different aroma
You
than the
just
other ones.
saw it that they're different, and then when before harvest, what we do, we taste a lot the grapes, a lot. And you could just see from the beginning that there's a huge difference.
So we had to vinify them
yes.
separately. It was just another aroma.
And I mean, in the, let's say, in the winemaking, what we do with the Endschleife is a difference to the normal Lemberger. So we get the grapes from the vineyard, the whole bunches, and we put them in a big bin, and we stump them with bare feet
With the stems,
for
we
a
don't
few
stem them.
hours, for 2 to 3 hours. So this is actually fun. So you put on music, you take a few beers, because it's
Get a
hard work.
beer.
It's fun. I mean, you start to stump the grapes, and everybody's like, ha ha ha. Half an hour, 45
They get more
minutes, and then
serious.
it's like, oh man, this is really exhausting. So my feet are starting
And they
to
start
ache.
more. Is it has
So you
be
have
a
to
soup.
give a kind of motivation, and beer works fantastically. So this is what we do, which is we extract a lot at the beginning while there is no alcohol around.
Or
So
heat.
it's just juice.
It's mechanical extraction.
Yeah. But slowly, because it's bare feed, it's no metal, nothing. It's no crushing, no edges, nothing. So what we do, we make a big bowl of soup in a way.
Like the Portuguese, you know? In Douro,
Yeah, it's
they
the
do it
Portuguese
also.
style, with the stems inside, everything. The next day we stump them again, and usually the second, third day they start to ferment, and then we press it. We
So
just put
completely
it in
the
the basket
paradox
press.
of the normal vinification of the reds.
It's dark, it has fantastic color, that's what I mentioned before. And we put it in a barrel, or in 2 barrels, whatever, and then it ferments as juice, and same process like the other ones. When
Stays there.
fermentation is done, we just fill the barrel to make it completely full, and it stays there for one
Bit
and a
longer,
half
1.5 years. Not moved
Not-
at all.
Not moved, just topped up from time to time.
So it's a
Um,
complete different
approach, yeah.
vinification approach
Yeah.
from the ones, the classic reds, we leave them and we don't extract, and they have their time and so on. And this one, we decided to do the completely opposite, like the paradox of it, because the aroma was so special of the grapes. And we said, we have to keep this primary aroma. And to keep it is to take all of it while they're still fresh, while they don't have the alcohol and the heat influence in it. Because by the time you have heat, or by the time you have alcohol, you have also the secondary aromas or the secondary structure.
which
you
you
know.
want many times.
You want many times, but we said we have to keep this, you know, this like peppery and cherry
It's kind
and
of white pepper flavors in it.
So we tried it. We had kind of this vinification. We had it in Austria a bit, but
I
with
was
different-
working at Moer van der Niepoort. Now it's called Weingut Dolle Moer, which was a great experience. And they do it with their
In
Spitzenberg, with their Spitzenberg wine, and it was a great expression. So we tried to adapt this to do this here, and we like it. It's nice.
It worked. I mean, because you
Yeah.
do have this aroma that you have in the grapes. You have, as you see, enough color. I mean, this
Well, the
only
colours.
2 days
For
skin
Lemberger,
contact,
it's
but
never a
it's
problem. It has amazing
But
color.
you have to know, in the beginning, the first year that we did it, we were, well, actually, we were not afraid at all, but we pressed it and we put it in the barrel, and for 6 months, for the whole autumn and winter, it was so reductive. It was so stinky because
Not crazy, but you had the feeling it's a bit
it's
pissed.
not, yes,
You know, it's kind of like, why did you separate me from my grapes so fast? And it's a bit annoyed in a way. But
it was not
it's perfectly,
there, you know, it was not.
and I had the experience from Austria, it has to be like this. Yeah, so Dirk told me at the beginning, no worries, you will freak out at the beginning because you have the feeling it stinks, but it has to be like this. It's just normal. Yeah, but
In
this
the
is what
spring,
it gives kind of.
ta-ta,
Yeah, it's fantastic.
it vanished immediately,
Yeah,
and
it's very
it
interesting.
showed its fruit and everything. It was amazing. The very first year we were like sweating so shit. We are best grapes and so on. I mean, as I said, Hans, it's like it has to be like this, but still you're not sure if you haven't tried it in with your
No.
own grapes before.
It's such a funny feeling at the
But-
beginning. It's like a baby. I mean, we will have one soon, but I don't know it so far. But it's really exciting. It's so exciting, and you're kind of, oh my god, we lost it, and we
But
fucked
then
it up. No, but it has to be like this, and even more, even better when it turns out well. And it what we love about it, it's smooth, but it has
depth.
it has a depth, and
length
it has an interesting tannin structure that you don't get from wines that you ferment on the skins for a few weeks.
How would you describe it? The tannin. How is it different?
It's can you say animating? How do you say?
Yes, or savory.
It's
Or...
yeah.
Do you know? Have you? Of course, you have tasted wines from really, really sandy soils.
Yeah.
That you have like from in the northern Loire,
Yeah.
almost on the ocean and so on. You have this kind of tannins. They're maybe a bit spiky, but not back there in the first. You know,
They're
part
not
of your
strong
mouth.
tannins. They're not tiring and annoying at all. They're actually pushing it a bit. So they make you kind of want to drink it more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Savory,
It's-
probably.
But it's so interesting that you said Loire, because I would have probably not recognized it as a Blaufränkisch, as
You
a
see.
Lemberger, but I would have said like maybe Cabernet Franc.
Many people say that.
Yeah. Cabernet Franc.
Many
People
people say
say
that.
and Gamay.
And Gamay.
Some people
But
say
Gamay
Gamay.
not from the classic Beaujolais,
No,
Gamay
not
from the
classic.
Massif Central, you know.
Exactly,
From
yeah. But because it's still very delicate and it's a very elegant wine, but it has this. I always get sometimes, or I get sometimes in a Loire Cabernet Franc, in this this red meaty aroma, but really like a pinch of it. It's like
an edgy type.
yeah, and also like the proteins would be different. Like
Yeah.
it's a very strange feeling, and this red aromatic, not violety aroma, but almost this purpury or this kind of red aromatic kind of
Yes.
thing what's going on, and this wine have it, and I don't really get this. Actually, not too much Rotterdam in this wine, and not too much pepper, but really a lot of fruits, and more black fruits than the Pinot Noir had. So more
Definitely.
this almost juniper or blackberry,
Yes,
this kind
yes.
of thing, but almost on the white side. So really it's alive. So you can feel
Yeah.
you can feel it, that it's very developing and very changing the wine.
Yeah, yeah.
Also the nose, beautiful, and also low alcohol probably, or
Say again?
also low alcohol probably, right?
A bit.
This has about 12. 12
Yes,
point,
but the 17, the 18 has also not much.
about 11, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Where do you see this wine in the kitchen, maybe? What would you eat with it? Or what do you usually eat besides the sheep cheese and the...
Well, it goes very well with different mushroom
Okay.
plates. Very, very well. And it goes also very well with
Pizza.
pizza or
Sorry, I love
döner or
Good pizza.
no, but you know coppa.
No.
Coppa is a kind of speck,
Okay.
but not. It doesn't have so much fat. It has more meat.
More like jamon serrano.
Yes, yes. So this would be very, very good with it. I think so. Probably like all the cold dishes, dinner stuff, the appetizers and so on.
Antipasti thing.
Yes, yes. But I think if not, you would definitely need some mushroomy like risotto probably, or the intensive ones, or maybe some deer
Okay.
fillet.
Yeah.
Not the very heavy ones, but the elegant part of the meat,
Like a nice cut.
Yes.
Meaty.
Yes, and also quite rare, still rosa and so on.
Yeah.
I think that would go good with it.
Not a bad thought, yeah.
Oh, the rooster started. We call him Malakas.
What is that?
It's the Greek word for
Asshole.
asshole.
Okay.
Because he's really.
But
there's
they
a
use this
rooster
word
here.
like permanently all the time.
But there's a rooster in the village. He's
But he's
really
nuts.
crazy.
He's
really
completely
nuts. I
nuts.
think he has really psychological problems.
He's
He
like
shouts
shouting for hours all the
no matter
time.
the weather, no matter the time of the day, he just shouts, the whole time. It's really irritating.
Maybe he likes it. Yeah, you see. Anyway.
And maybe just to talk about natural wine a little bit. What's your approach about this, and do you think it's a good? Well, I suppose you think it's a good movement or good direction, but do you think it's good to call your wine as a natural wine, maybe, or what's your take on that? It should be fashionable, or it's a good
Listen,
brand?
I mean, if somebody calls our wines or us as natural winemakers, we don't complain because we understand and it makes sense. But we never
Call ourselves
called
natural
ourselves
winemakers.
natural winemakers because it's maybe a coincidence, but for us it makes just sense to make wines like this because we believe it gives the best result. Little bird. And the natural wine movement, I think it's great. It's very important.
Also for the knowledge for the people.
Yes, it's for sure a fantastic
for
thing.
the consciousness to realize.
Of course, like in all movements, some people go extreme, and I don't know if this is super necessary. It's important that it exists, like everything. I don't know if this will keep on very long. I mean, if you have failures in your wines and it starts like smells like nail polish extremely,
it smells really
I don't.
funky
For me,
or
it's
tastes
not.
really
For
funky.
me, it does. It's not fun. Okay, some people like it because the more crazy it is, the better it is. Okay,
or the more
but
provocative maybe.
I don't know how sustainable this is going to be.
But it's very
it's
good
okay.
for the people, for the wine drinkers, because through natural and thanks to natural wine, I would say trend maybe or movement, people understood what you can add, all the possibilities that you might have to make wine, and what is actually real wine and what is not, because they didn't know it, and it's still there. I think there's still a lot of people that don't know how chemical a wine can be. But still, through natural wine, people understood, the difference. And there is a bit more awareness and there is a bit more knowledge. And I think this is very important. But, as everywhere, I mean, it's also with fashion. You will always have the good and the bad examples, and you will always have the extremes. And we both don't like when a wine is volatile. We don't like when a wine has mice. It just doesn't have to be. I mean, I still want to enjoy my wine, and don't enjoy my wine if it has, in the end, this mice flavor, But, okay, if people make it and they can sell this wine and there are people enjoying it, fair enough, it's...
Yeah, and so I have some colleagues, so to say, but I'm not gonna name them. They say, okay, yeah, that's a trend. Like the rosé had like kind of some good years in the recent years, I think this decade, and then it's gonna go away. But I think it's not gonna go away because it was always there. So my great grandfather made wine like this. So everybody made wine like this before.
My grandfather
50s.
did.
There are some wines that will go away.
Yeah.
The ones that are superficial, the ones that are made only because people like it now, they will go away. But maybe it's okay.
No, but it's also a good example that we have one good friend. Actually, he's our importer in Austria. He has a great selection of. It's a small cave, and he has a great selection of Italian wine. But I believe almost everything is what we call now natural. But it's most of the wineries. They do it since decades. For them, it's just normal.
And so on.
So it's not kind of hipster people.
Thanks to this movement, they are glad because they got more reputation, because nobody knew them, and now everybody admires them, and so on. And this is also in Eastern Europe. Look at Georgia. Now Georgia is the superstar, and they used to work like this for decades. And you know,
hundreds of years,
centuries actually.
yeah.
It's perfect for them.
Yeah.
It's fine for them.
So I agree with you because it was always there, but it was not recognized as, or it never had a name on
yes.
top. It was just a supernatural, normal way of making wine. Yeah. I mean, back in the days, there were no products to help. I mean, we have to admit that just quality-wise, nowadays, we have the most or the highest quality in wine ever.
Standard, yes,
Ever,
definitely.
for sure.
Definitely.
Because in former times, there was a lot of not clean, let's call it maybe not good wine. People were drinking it because it was there, but probably was really not good. There
Yeah,
were
it was
failures, it was
oxidated
sour, whatever. So nowadays, it's a great development, and this is due to the science and the research centers, absolutely. But of course, you can exaggerate and you can add and you do the whatever, and you lose spirit. You lose individually, soul. So yeah, it's very important, this movement.
And also maybe in the old days they never thought that a wine can taste that good, because maybe they just drank wine from their village, maybe from the next one, but they never tasted the Barolo.
True.
A good Barolo.
How?
They never
Yeah.
tasted
Yeah.
I don't know, one of the best producers from
Yeah.
Exactly.
okay, Riesling
Yeah.
can also taste like this.
Yeah.
But now you can also go to even a supermarket, and if you have 15 euros, you can buy good wine.
Yes.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
But nowadays it's much easier. But then, on the other hand, it's wine shouldn't be standardized. So.
No.
To this wonderful afternoon, I really like to thank you for your time and for this really, like, by far the most intimate and memorable setting for the podcast. Really nice.
It was a pleasure.
Also for the food
Thank
and
you
the nice
for
notes.
coming.
And really, just it's really good to see that people can work like this and people can live like this and produce beautiful wines like this. So thank you.
Thank you for your
Thanks.
time and
Thank
for
you.
coming by.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you.
Fantastic.